What's new has a funny way of becoming old. And now it happens, it feels like almost overnight. When the printing press came out, it was new. And then over time, it was old, but it lasted for a really long time. When Sears came out with the catalog, so farmers could get whatever they wanted and not have to drive into the city, it was new. And then it became old, but it lasted for a really long time. When the modern industrial economy developed, modern navies, modern armies, electricity, steel, rail, and the automobile, it was new. And then it became old. And it lasted for a really long time. The silicon wafer and the innovations that sparked as we move into a computer era was new. And now it feels old. And then more gets layered on top of it. We're seeing that now with AI, which is old and feels new, and in some ways is. And what I've noticed, and as I've been thinking about these things, is all of these things create over time an echo chamber. So the echo chamber is a concept that transcends social media. However, I'll speak about it on social media because that's what we all see right now. I don't think there's anybody out there who doesn't know that there are echo chambers in markets. There's always been, but now it's more obvious. And what I see in a market echo chamber is the dynamic of celebrities and followers. The celebrities have individuals that are supporting them. So they're riding off the celebrity or trying to become like the celebrity, or are in the audience and trying to stand out and get the attention of the celebrity. And I call these social climbers. Every market has the dynamic of celebrity, social climber, and echo chamber, and change. And that change now is accelerated. How do you know if you're inside a social media echo chamber? You are, because they all are. Whenever you have a hierarchy with celebrities and social climbers, by definition, you're in an echo chamber. Why? Assumptions. Every single market, always, where there is a division between the leaders and the followers in a hierarchy of any kind, includes an echo chamber based on assumptions. Let's think about the assumptions in the social media echo chamber. And you ask yourself, are you in a social media echo chamber swimming with the fish, but not outside the fishbowl, watching the fish in their confusion, swimming around in the echo chamber, not knowing what's going on because of the assumptions they're making? The assumptions come from the celebrities because they've set the tone and the culture of the echo chamber. How to pop a bubble. David and Goliath give us a direction. David popped the bubble. And when the Israelites, because of David, the shepherd, who was not a celebrity or a social climber, he'd mastered the art of the slingshot, which was a known weapon at the time, but no one thought a shepherd could do it like that, as good as that. How did he do that? He worked on his product for years. His product was slingshot, shepherd expertise. Now translate that into this modern economy. How are you going to be David? Work on your product, build it in the market, create it in the market. That can't be done if you're trapped in the echo chamber belief systems of the celebrities in your market. Can't be done. You have to choose. You can be in the echo chamber as a member of the fish, swimming around, looking at each other, or go outside the fishbowl. That's your choice. Everyone has the opportunity to do this. What's next is never, and never has been throughout human history, inside an echo chamber that already exists. The celebrities who run the echo chambers through their belief system adoption of the assumptions that are not true ever by those in the audience, the beginners, the connectors often, or even the innovators who are trying to get free of the assumptions of the echo chamber, and sometimes have, and sometimes haven't yet, or in transition, are where the action is. At the top, the celebrity and the social climber are holding on to what exists, and their goal is to extract more from the echo chamber. That's the goal. And the goal, in some cases, is money or wealth, but not always. Sometimes it's relevance. Sometimes it's to retain their celebrity. Sometimes it's a confusion about what purpose is. And they think purpose and impact is getting something from within the echo chamber audience. In other words, help more people. But they're not helping anybody because the assumptions are driving the approach they're taking. And they're allowing this to happen instead of popping the bubble themselves. What's the bubble? It's the hierarchy bubble. It's the structure of the bubble is the hierarchy and the belief systems in the market. So let's just get specific and talk about what's going on with the social media echo chamber right now, because it's really exciting. If you see this and you get outside of it, you're going to take off when it's time. But you got to work on your product, and you got to build your connect approach into the market as an equal within the market, and begin over time to peel away the veil of assumptions that are believed in the market. And this is it's fun because you get to be yourself. That's it. Now, some people don't want to be themselves right away. It's uncomfortable. The price of freedom, liberation from the echo chamber bubble is uncomfortableness. But it doesn't feel that way as you learn to release fear, which is easier than you think. And the pathway I found is noticing. Notice, adjust, and calibrate. I notice what's going on in the market. I notice what's going on social media right now. And I make adjustments based on what I know to be true and where my expertise, skills, and experience lies, and create within the market what's next and something new that is not me leading, or even in some respects figuring out what's next, but more riding the wave. The wave is there. We don't create the wave of what's next. I don't think that's true. I don't think that's ever been true. We ride it. And you can do that now. But you have to escape the bubble of the social media belief systems and assumptions to do it. Otherwise, you can't. You're trapped in the fishbowl. For example, Henry Ford saw the bubble. What he saw was, oh, we got cars now. What was the belief system about cars and the assumptions? It's for rich people. It's for rich people. And he made he saw it and he said, wait a minute. Does this have to be like this? And I think the answer, if he asked anybody, would have been, yeah, it's for rich people. It's too expensive. And regular people, it's not for them. They can have horses that shit all over the place. They don't need a car. Well, why did Henry Ford recognize this? I don't know. but he did. And it's always in the story. If you read the story, you know why. You'll know why, always. What did he do? He said, what if everyone could have one of these to go faster from one place to another? Ask them, what do they say they want? Faster horse. They'll see the car and say, I can't afford that. What's going to happen if Henry Ford goes around and tells everybody this? If you tell everybody in an echo chamber what you see, they'll say, no, it's impossible, because they're stuck in the echo chamber. What do you do instead? Go into the vision as an entrepreneur, which is a creative process, and take connected action into that vision no matter what. The friction from the market's coming. Usually it starts with being ignored or ridiculed, or ignored and then ridiculed, and then at some point feared, because you're perceived as attacking the celebrities and the social climbers, and they're not going to like it. Some will. The connectors, who look like celebrities but aren't, are open-minded people who've succeeded and are now connecting others. Those are the give back people, like a Warren Buffett kind of person. And every market has these people. And they could be seen as celebrities, but they're really not, because they don't think it's about them. They think it's about us, meaning the market. So they are thinking about us. So somebody like Jeff Hoffman or Ray Dalio is like that in the entrepreneur world. And those people are open. They're connectors. So it's important to separate those, to make those distinctions. Who are the celebrities? They're selling, marketing, forcing. They're holding on to the idea that they did it. They're holding on to the separation, the idea of they know, other people can learn from them, and then they'll know too. That's the assumption in the social media bubble. That's never been true, ever. Why do we believe it? Because it's how human beings are. It's going to pop because at some point, anything that's not true dissolves and collapses. When? At the end. How do you know when the end is? When everybody's looking around saying, this sucks. This isn't working. This doesn't work at all. I don't want to do this anymore. And I see that every day. I hear it every day. I see it in the comments on ads. These conferences are all coming out. Inspire. That's a echo chamber conference of a stage of celebrities and an audience. It's an echo chamber bubble. And it's related to social media, but it's now on site. Same thing. And in that echo chamber, there's an assumption that the people on the stage know, and the people in the audience can learn from them. That's not true. It's never been true. People learn from themselves. You can't copy a celebrity. What you can do is learn from yourself as an equal. The hierarchy is always a lie. It always contains lies. It always has. But it's hard to see because of the assumptions. The assumption in this case on social media is their attractive character. In other words, what they have that I want gives me the feeling they know. I get sucked into it too. That's how I know this. And I wondered, why do I believe this stuff? And it usually comes from some kind of pain. And then I realized the work is the pain release, not doing things to become like them. That's insane. But I spent a couple of years doing it. How do I succeed on social media? How do I get more of the business that I want? How do I become more productive like you? How do I learn how to do this? How do I learn how to do that? From a celebrity, by giving them authority, infusing them as the leader of the bubble with knowing. They don't know. How can anybody know for you? How can anybody know for me? It's impossible, because it's not how it works. And then I started to realize another assumption in the social media bubble is the people running the show in these markets don't even know how they succeeded. And that blew my mind. And I thought, how do I explain this? Now I'm really in trouble because now I'm going after belief systems and assumptions that are so deeply held in the social media echo chamber bubbles and nobody's going to understand what I'm talking about. And that's kind of what happened. So I thought, how do I explain this to be useful? I want to be useful. I don't want to just say, I'm not attacking anybody. And that's the misunderstanding. So this is what you have to go through when you start seeing things outside the bubbles, getting out of the fishbowl, and you're going to look in the fishbowl. This is what the first Matrix movie is about. It's about a lot of things, but that's one of the things I think it's about. And being able to see the society for what it really is. And the pieces of it, which are your areas of expertise, meaning your market, which is based on a grouping of people who share the same desire, not the same pain, the same desire, an elevating desire that they share is a market. The market in the world is, I want water and food. That's an elevating desire. So help me get water and food. Let's work together on that. And now we got a market. And at some point, there'll be a hierarchy of people who have the water and food who say, here are the rules. And people will believe them. People will believe them. And they're not true. Never have been. It's hard for people to understand because when you're trapped in a bubble, you're in the bubble. But you can get out. Anybody can get out. The only way to get out, I think, is just notice the truth that you gave me. I speak of I gave authority to the social media celebrities over me in entrepreneur land and how to improve yourself, guru systems. Now I don't. I haven't for a long time now. So I'm going to go back to my LinkedIn. I'm going to give you some ideas to escape. So how do you be David and fell Goliath? You got to get good at the slingshot. So back in the day, the slingshot was a very powerful weapon. It was the artillery of the day. So you had the infantry, the cavalry, and the artillery, and the old time weapons, times of the Israelites and the Philistines. And David was an expert at the slingshot, but he was not a celebrity or a social climber or recognized at all as having any influence. But desperate times lead to desperate measures. And the Philistines were going to win. And they trotted Goliath out because they were trapped in the bubble. And they thought, well, we're superior. We know more. We're stronger. And they weren't. They were weak and vulnerable. It's the same. These social media celebrities are weak and vulnerable right now because they're at the end and they think that what's going on will continue, but it won't because it never does. So I'm going to read something here I wrote. So on the LinkedIn thing, the power of direct attack requires superior military power in battle. If you directly attack the celebrities by attacking them, you'll lose. So David did not run at Goliath and try to hit him. He used the artillery. In the real world, David fells Goliath through an alternative approach. What's your alternative approach? It's a product, a better mousetrap. What is the assumption in the social media echo chambers right now? The marketers win. That's not true. The better products win. Always. If you build it, they will come. All you have to do is be visible. If you build it, they will come. Is true. If you become an expert like David did in the slingshot, over time, you will prevail. Always. Why? Because that's how it works. Consider becoming the Uncola to Coke. Your industry has celebrities. We know them. We all know them in our industry. And then if you go to your industry and you talk about the celebrities, other people are like, I never heard of that person. My wife has never heard of she's heard the name Tony Robbins. But she's never heard of Grant Cardone or Russell Brunson or Alex Hormozy or any of these celebrities. She's like, stop telling me about these people. She doesn't care about them. But there's other celebrities in other industries. You just need to know your celebrities. And the social climbers are trying to support those celebrities rise, or not rise, but avoid the fall. These individuals speak and the notebooks come out. And I see this on these videos where they hang on to every word the celebrity says. And I was watching Joe Polish. He had, now these are good people, right? So he's a marketing celebrity that innovated, but he's a celebrity and he's usually marketing. So that's what's not going to last. And he had Les Brown, who's amazing. I love Les Brown on stage. If Les Brown starts talking, I'm thinking about myself and my own awareness and how what he says relates to me. I'm not writing down every word he says to copy him. So I'm not interested in being in Les Brown's audience, which is what was set up in that genius retreat that Joe Polish runs. I'm like, I'm not interested in that. It feels like the old way. This is what's happening with TED and TEDx now. It's an audience and a stage. We're tired of it. Who? Enough people. That's when change comes. When enough people are tired of it, that wave starts getting bigger and more people see it and start to ride it. And there's a lot of wipeouts, particularly at the pioneer phase or the what is called the fast follower or early adopter phase. There's a lot of wipeouts, and enjoy the wipeouts. It can be fun. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be terrible to be on the verge of what's next and bringing what's next into the world. In other words, being part of it, finding your place in it. Groan in pain or listen with delight. I spent a year groaning in pain when these people, celebrities, were speaking after I realized it was not what they were saying they had assumptions under it that aren't true. And they're teaching things that aren't going to work for me or anybody when the echo chamber bursts. And I thought, okay, or listen with delight. Now I listen with delight because I'm learning how to be David with my slingshot. Your foil are the celebrities now famous for being famous. You know the warmed over TV dinner coming out of the box is yesterday's news. Russell Brunson reviving Napoleon Hill stuff and the way it's being taught is warmed over TV dinner. I spent almost 2 years working through Think and Grow Rich. You don't do that in 4 days. You just don't. And you don't do it in the audience following a celebrity. That is not what Napoleon Hill had in mind, ever. Many will agree. But when you figure out your product, then you can start to communicate it more clearly. When you have a better mousetrap and you communicate that better mousetrap inside the market as opposed to groaning in pain and trying to get people to get it, and you start listening with delight at the confusion and the assumptions in the fishbowl and see, wow, this is going to be fun. You're David with the slingshot. It's just a matter of time. Entrepreneurs who live in the creative intelligence of the future create one that matters. Be the change that you want to see in the world. Gandhi got kicked off the train in South Africa, at least according to Richard Attenborough's movie. And he didn't realize yet, he was still in the fishbowl, that he wasn't British, that the British didn't see him as British. He thought it was just the South Africans. And when he went back to India, he realized it's the same thing here. They believed that they were part of the colonial British Empire. They weren't. They were the objects of the subject. And when he realized that and he started talking about that, and people didn't like it, including a lot of Brahmin Indians at the top of the hierarchy. They didn't like it either. And there's a scene in the movie where it tipped. It's an incredible scene. And there was stunned silence in the room. And it was Indian men. And Gandhi had spent a few years traveling around India, learning what India really is for him. And he released his beliefs, got outside the fishbowl, and was free and liberated. And he could look at it and say, how am I going to communicate this? Well, the British had passed a law where a British soldier could go in anybody's house and search it. What did he do? Gandhi knew India by then. He really knew India, real India. He rode around in third class for a long time. And he had an ashram, and he did it. Like, he did the work. That's called the work. That's refining your product, knowing your experience, knowing your expertise, knowing what you're here to do. Inner directed purpose, not a purpose to succeed as a celebrity. Inner directed purpose. And he gave a speech and he said, guess what? The British can come in your house and touch your wife. Stunned silence. And then applause. They came together in that room. That was the moment that the British got kicked out of India. That's David versus Goliath. Nobody thought he could do that. I think he weighed like 89 pounds. Indomitable will is not Gandhi deciding what's going to happen. It's will and connected action from will and the ability to overcome friction by not fighting against it. He had a slingshot and he used it in the right moment, and he had them because it was true. It was true. It was true. The country was subjugated by a conquering force that imposed its will on that country. And the minute people realized that, they had escaped from the bubble. Now, we're talking about social media echo chamber bubble, but the principles are the same. That's why I'm using this as an example, because a lot of people are familiar with this story. Be the change you want to see in the world means get your product in line, get ready, because you're going to leap into what's next. If you focus on product, but you build it in the market. If you go off in the lab and do it by yourself, you're going to miss it. You do it with the market. You don't ask the market what it wants, though. That's the error. So when I say this, people are like, what, did I do market research? Donald Miller is like, I did market research and then the marketing worked. That's not what I'm talking about at all. I'm talking about being the change in the world you want to see in your market as an expert in your own experience and what you do, who you are. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about what Donald Miller did. That's marketing and market research. It's not the same thing. That worked back then. Doesn't work anymore. Have you noticed? I'll talk about how to avoid a direct attack, make it clear where you stand, and ignore industry conventions while remaining hyper aware of market politics. I got my slingshot. I'm unleashing it. Why? Because it's time. I'm ready. Direct attacks? Doesn't work. I tried. Make it clear where you stand. Hopefully you're clear on where I stand. Ignore industry conventions. I am. And I hope you do too. I hope you do too. Join us. We're what's next. We're what's coming. It's not mine. It's ours. Who is it? Who is us? This is what's next is us. No stages, no hierarchies, no celebrities, no social climbers. You can't do that in my group. We'll bust you. If you start going around thinking you know better than everybody else, the answer is going to be, we need to have a talk. And it won't be me doing the talk. It'll be the person who feels triggered by that. And we'll figure out what's really going on. Those are called clearings. I've done them a lot on weekends. In personal development work, we're bringing that into business. It's about equals allowing each other space. Your before story is welcomed. I do not have private $150,000 mastermind groups. I have everybody comes and can afford it. And there will be ways, no matter what, for you to afford what I'm doing, because it's about what's next, which is the world coming together inside these markets and changing everything. Aren't we ready for entrepreneurs to run the world? I am. All right, I'm going to take a few minutes here and talk a little bit about how to do this. And there's interconnecting mechanisms that always work. And it's not about my way. Don't do it my way. That's the whole point. I'm not the celebrity. I'm not the next whatever. I don't want that. I thought I did, but I don't. What I want is everyone who wants it to get it. In other words, David's slingshot fell their Goliath in their market and take over, be what's next, but not fighting it, because you're bringing what's next into the world, which is evolution. So being on the curve of evolution, as opposed to figuring out how to social climb up to the top of the hierarchy and kiss ass. Kiss ass. You want to do that? Go ahead. I don't. And I don't want to hang on to the assumptions either, because they're not true. Why would I want to hang on to something that's not true? Because I don't see that it's not true, because I'm swimming around in the fishbowl with everybody in my market. I had to get out of that. It takes something, but you can do it quick. You can do it quick. You'll be surprised how quick that can be. But it's hard because people want to believe, they've already invested. I spent 150 grand with these yahoos learning how to become a social media authority until I realized what it was. So it's hard to give that up. You say, well, I put 150 grand in. I want a return from it. I got the return. I learned how it works, because this is part of my purpose. My inner-directed purpose has to do with vision realized in the world and elevation and evolution. It took me a long time to get to that. I thought it was making more money, having freedom from the money, and getting known on some platform as a celebrity kind of person. But that's not what it is. That was dots to connect to get here. And you'll do the same. You'll do the same in your own way. So let's talk about the interconnecting systems. So the red pill pathway system is about thought, action, and impact. Within thought, knowing the decision is clear. You've decided you're going. And then understanding the direction. In other words, your hypothesis about the market you want to connect into, not market to. And then being able to recognize the 5 keys that must be present, because they always must be present. And that has to do with your blueprint. And recognizing will, and also detachment from outcomes and KPIs and results and measurements. So people look at me and they're like, well, how many million have you made? Alex made 100 million. I'm like, I'm detached from that because I'm using these keys. So I don't care. I'm going to make money, but it's not the point. That's what I'm saying. Action on the red pill pathway is next, but it's connected. So these things work together, and it's more of a flywheel elevating up than a circle going in circles. That's a hamster wheel. This goes up with spiraling energetics. So if you're a math person, it's exponential growth up a curve and then logarithmic acceleration. That's what happens. I know that because I'm doing it. And it's not just me. It's the people in my group and inner circles too. But these inner circles are open to you. There is no celebrity here. It's wide open. The action starts again with blueprint. Who am I? What am I here to do? How do I work energetically? How does that look in my business, my personal life, and in the market? And then stories. How do I speak about this? In other words, own my stories. That was incredible when that happened. Incredible. I walked around all day talking to myself about my life and the snippets that came out of it. And I started writing articles about it and I started talking about it with people. And I thought, I had no idea I'd done all these things. I couldn't connect the dots. This is what Steve Jobs talks about. When you connect the dots going backwards, that means owning your stories, your journey. Knowing your own hero's journey is not the same as writing a customer hero journey to succeed in business. Those are not the same thing. To create an epiphany bridge story and an attractive character to get people to do what you want. That is not the same thing. They took the hero's journey story and applied it to marketing, and it used to work in the old days. Then being able to understand the engagement you want to have. What is the ecosystem of engagement? I've tried everything. I'm looking at Mastodon now, which is fascinating. I'm looking at subreddit forums. Somebody in my group found a Facebook group that's perfect for what he does as a market authority, which is later. That's another. So Red Pill Pathway is connecting these things together. And then impact has to do with product and it has to do with group power. Can't do this alone. It's impossible. That is absolutely true. I'm finding is that it is impossible to do this alone. There is no entrepreneur who succeeded alone ever. It may look that way and you hear those stories, but there's always a group. And Napoleon Hill talks about this. This is called the mastermind. Mastermind is not a group where the celebrity teaches. That's not a mastermind. Then More Money Now is 5 stages of connecting into the market. Starts with product. Then you go to connect. Where do you connect? How do you connect? And do it fast. No selling, no marketing, no prospecting. You don't need all that. That's the old way. You got to get rid of those beliefs and assumptions, or it's hard to do this. That takes time, but not that much time. I just think it takes people a couple of weeks, I'm finding. When they come in our group, we start talking about it because we're all doing this. So they start to release those beliefs and assumptions. Then we're talking about ask, which means don't assume anything. Ask people what their vision is. And then create shared desire instead of selling, which I call schmooze, which means we're coming together around a shared desire in a market that has a bigger shared desire. And that shared desire means my vision's respected, your vision's respected. And then the conversation is, what do we do together? And then next is what's next for us. If I'm talking to somebody and what's next for them, I think is to pay me for my private client thing or my 8-week thing or one of our workshops we're putting together jointly, or to join the group for a year, which is included in everything. I'm going to tell people that. If it feels uncomfortable to do that, I won't, because I have stuff that's free. So I can say to people, hey, let's do a product together. You don't have to pay me anything. We'll do it together. Or I got a way for you to make money on the side. We have this invite people to stuff and you'll get money if they sign up. You could tell people that's going on too if you want to be fully transparent. I'm saying it right now. I'm not hiding anything. Or it's, let's stay in touch, but I don't use email lists anymore. I don't stay in touch with people. I let them connect with me and I connect with them. I can see their stuff on social media. They can see my stuff off of social media too, on these new platforms, which I think are next as the ad networks start to crumble. I think the ad networks are a bubble too, but it's going to take years for that stuff to disintegrate like it did with Sears and Blockbuster and some of these other things. It's going to take a long time before it goes away. So use it to your advantage. So that's More Money Now. And then the third component, there's more components, but the third big one is market authority. I call that black diamond skiing. So that's more advanced. I figured out my more money now strategy. I'm getting that. I'm doing it. I'm in the market. So I'm getting connected in the market. And then I'm on the red pill pathway. So I'm figuring out what I'm here to do, the actions to take, the impact I want to make, and where. Market authority is now saying, okay, I'm outside the fishbowl and I'm talking about it. And it's a process to do that. That process took me a few years to figure out and then a year to do. Now that I did it, it's getting easier for me to show other people, but it still takes some time. And sometimes people come into market authority in our market authority room. And I had somebody yesterday, he got it immediately and he's going to do it. Other people look at me like I'm crazy. They're like, what are you talking about? Because they're in the marketing belief systems and they're having trouble escaping from the fishbowl. And that requires some other kinds of work. And we have something called the Action Library, which is about getting unstuck from that stuff. And then the Vision Accelerator rooms are about moving faster, as well as office hours, as you're starting to recognize the belief systems that are holding you back. And that's just my part of it. There's a lot more, because that's not enough. So if you want to be in what's next and ride that wave, check out our events page. It will be more understandable soon.